In this video, we'll talk about the current state of the wide receiver market, a former NFL MVP, some possible free agent moves, and the state of the Baltimore Ravens as it is right now. And make sure you stay till the end of this video to get some news on an upcoming event. Now, as the Ravens sit back and wait while they play tit for tat with Lamar Jackson about his contract, the Ravens are kind of stuck when it comes to making moves to upgrade this team. The first position that always comes to mind is the wide receiver position. So let's take a look at that. With the Jets signing Mecole Hardman, that takes one wide receiver off the board that the Ravens cannot get. Now it's starting to become slim pickings when it comes to the free agent wide receiver market. Now Elijah Moore was traded from the Jets to the Cleveland Browns in a subsequent move with them signing Hardman. So there's starting to be a cascade effect when it comes to the market, which was already slim to none to begin with. All the big name receivers are either in long-term deals or have been traded to teams that really wanted them. Now, I guess we can give the Baltimore Ravens credit for at least trying. That's what you want to call it. They brought in Nelson Aguilar reportedly for a visit. Now, he is not one of the top wide receivers, but he may be better than what we have. His hands have been a little suspect, but he has been a productive wide receiver. Most of the wide receivers that have been signed have been going for a rate of about 11 mil per year. Is Nelson Aguilar worth that? I don't think so, even though he just came off an 11-year average with the New England Patriots. Has he lived up to the hype? I don't think so. Well, they would have re-signed him. But as our wide receiver room looks, anything's an upgrade. We only have Bateman, who up to this point has not been healthy. Hopefully this season he can stay healthy and prove to be that first-round pick that we thought he could be. We still have Tylan Wallace, James Prochet, and Devin Duvernay. We also have a cast of undrafted free agents, guys who just seem to hang around year in and year out that make it to training camp but don't make it on the team. So you can call this the island of misfit toys because we just play with them, but we never actually sign them or give them an opportunity. But alas, there is still one big name left out there in the free agent market, and that is Odell Beckham Jr. Now, there's been a report that came out today that he is highly interested in signing with the New York Jets. Even though they have a better wide receivers, they traded for Mecole Hardman, they picked up Corey Davis in free agency a few years back. They still know it's not enough. Even though they're going after Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what that saga is going to mean, but they know wide receiver is a very important position. Now, the Ravens have also been reported to have interest in Odell. A tweet came out saying that somebody offered him a garbage deal. And of course, everybody thinks it's the Baltimore Ravens. Could it have been? We don't know. But we will see going forward. But with the interest in the Jets and what they have going on, especially having Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, who seems to be very good friends with Odell, weird to me, but they seem to have wanted to play together for many, many seasons. So this would be their opportunity in New York to actually build something and make it happen. Having former Ravens executive Joe Douglas at the helm, I know he will not leave any stone unturned and try to build this into a championship team because he's made some moves that have made them a contender, and they were only possibly a quarterback away from making the playoffs and making some real noise. Then you bring in all of these weapons to go with a healthy Breece Hall if he is healthy, and it might be something. Also still available on the market is former Detroit Lions wide receiver DJ Chark. He may not be one of the more well-known names throughout the NFL, but he is a decent receiver. And once again, he would be an upgrade to this room. Now, I know he's had injury concerns, but the potential is there. He had one breakout year in Jacksonville, and I think that is enough to get him a deal close to maybe $8 or $9 million. Will the Ravens make that move? But a lot of our money's being tied up right now because we haven't made a deal with our quarterback. So I think until Lamar Jackson signs, the free agent movement, maybe even trades, are going to be slim to none. Now, bringing up the trade market, there is one wide receiver that has been rumored to the Ravens since the beginning of the offseason, and that is DeAndre Hopkins with the Arizona Cardinals. They were reportedly asking for a first rounder, then they went to a second rounder, but I think that they know with his age, the PED suspension last season, injuries, Just the production has declined some, and I don't think it had a lot to do with him. I think it had more to do with the situation up in Arizona. But they now know he's not commanding these high picks. So I think it was speculated that it would be maybe a 5th or 6th round pick. But today they have narrowed it down, or reportedly narrowed it down, to about 5 teams, with the Ravens being one of them. Now, can we take that salary cap hit? Are the Cardinals going to pay part of that money? We don't know. There are a few more wide receivers left in the market, like a Robbie Anderson, a Marvin Jones, a Kenny Galladay, but are they even worth the trouble? Now, Marvin Jones to me is a very decent receiver, but he is about 33 years old. I mean, the age in which the Ravens like to sign their wide receivers, but I think his best and most productive years are behind him. Next up, Cam Damn Newton. On Tuesday, he was at Auburn's Pro Day throwing to the wide receivers, especially to his little brother. I think it was a favor to him, but I also think that he wanted to showcase his skills to let NFL teams know, hey, he still has it. He recently said on his Twitter account, hey, there are not 32 other teams out here with better quarterbacks than myself. Dude's out here getting deals, making money, while he's still sitting on the sideline. Now, granted, Cam has not been the best as of recently, last being with New England in 2021, but I think a lot of that had to do with him having a shoulder injury that he never fully healed from. I think he tried to come back a little too early. He kept trying to play to prove himself and stay relevant in the NFL to keep a job. But now with him being out a full season, being able to recover, and still having the rest of this offseason to get right, he could make a possible decent number 2 for some team. Now, could that team possibly be the Baltimore Ravens? Who's to say? We have 2 quarterbacks, our starting quarterback and our Pro Bowl second string quarterback, up in limbo. Lamar Jackson, we all know what's going on with that contract situation. There have been reports that he's not happy with the team and he's just ready to move on. True or not, we don't know what's going to happen. Now, there's been some speculation that the Colts are interested in him. There's been speculation that Atlanta might be in the mix. Carolina has their feelers out, along with Minnesota and maybe a few more teams, but they're not going to kind of tip their hand as of right now. Now, with Tyler Huntley, we tagged him with the right of first refusal tag, meaning that another team can match and snatch him away. If teams felt like they saw enough from him, they may feel he's a quality number 2 and snatch him away. Now, we will be without a starting quarterback and a backup quarterback. If the Ravens were to bring somebody in, Cam Newton can be kind of a stopgap, maybe a potential backup in case of injury. Now, I know that they don't feel like he can throw like he used to, but that's better than what Tyler Huntley can do. Tyler Huntley, he was pretty decent, don't get me wrong, but passes beyond 10 yards, it just wasn't there. And I know that Cam's not a runner as he was in years past, but I still think he has enough arm strength to get the ball downfield. And don't get me wrong, he is 6'5", 240 pounds. So believe me, he can still run. I know Greg Roman's gone, but we still have the Ravens philosophy, and quarterback runs are not going to be taken out the playbook, even though people believe we're going to run a entirely different offense, which is not true. We're still running John Harbaugh's Baltimore Ravens system. And speaking of backup quarterbacks, the Ravens were potentially earlier in the offseason interested in bringing in Baker Mayfield and Jacoby Brissett. But Tampa Bay and Washington had other ideas and snatched them up pretty early. So one name that has been put out there is Teddy Bridgewater. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is not the Teddy Bridgewater before the injury, nor is he the Teddy Bridgewater of 3 years, but I think he will be serviceable enough, possibly, to get the Ravens through tough times, because we don't know what's going on. He would be kind of an insurance policy in case Lamar does stay here and decides not to play. Who knows? And another name that's been linked to us, which seems like he has been for the last 20 years, is defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. Formerly of the Browns, they've had a falling out. They sat him out the last game. Just things weren't good there. Now, I know Jadeveon has not lived up to the number 1 overall pick that he has been, but I still think he's a disruptor. He's a short tackler. He can actually get pressure on the quarterback and maybe help fine-tune Oweh's game. He can give some tips to Ajabo. The only problem possibly to me would be, would Jadeveon fit into the Ravens culture? Who's to say? But with money being tight, we have to sign the more affordable free agents that we can bring in that still can kind of play. And lastly, looking at the state of the Ravens and the roster as it is today. Now, with us trading Chuck Clark to the New York Jets, that brings one less safety into the mix. I know we re-signed Geno Stone, we have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams, but there isn't much depth behind there. Now, will we make Brandon Stevens convert to being back to a safety again? Will he be a hybrid safety cornerback? I think all this movement has stunted his growth. He's talented, he has speed and size, but I just think moving him from position to position has kind of shortchanged him a little bit in learning one and mastering none. If they do decide to make that move to make him a full-time safety, then that means we will have another hole at cornerback, being that we don't know the situation with Marcus Peters, but in most of our eyes, Marcus Peters' time as a Raven is done. So that just leaves Marlon Humphrey, Pepe, Jalen Armour-Davis, whomever else they decide to bring in, a bunch of street meat free agents, pause, and that leaves a hole. So that takes me to the draft. What do we do with our first round pick? Do we go wide receiver in this lackluster market, or do we go cornerback? I know we've invested heavily in the defensive side of the ball, but this is what the Ravens do. We can't expect anything less. It just seems like year after year, no matter how many people we draft, how many free agents we bring in on the defensive side, it just seems like we need more defense. We need to plug more holes because either these picks aren't hitting, they're getting injured, or they just can't play. Now, in my opinion, I believe we should just trade back in the draft, accumulate more picks because we only have 5 picks. And we know Eric DeCosta needs as many swings at the plate as he can get because a lot of these picks just aren't hitting. And for me, trading back would give us that ammunition to shore up the offensive line. Ben Powell is signed with the Denver Broncos, so that leaves a hole at guard. Is Ben Cleveland ready to play? Can he stay healthy enough for a full season? Is he up to par with his pass blocking? Because we know what he can do as a run blocker. Is he ready to take over that role? Do we find a replacement for Kevin Zeitler because he is getting up there in age and we don't know what's going to happen with him after next season? So I just think that we need to find someone that can either be a swing guard, maybe play multiple positions, because the Ravens like to do, but we need that depth on the offensive line. We need to get some reassurance at tackle because we really don't know if Ronnie Stanley is going to stay healthy. Knock on wood, hope he does. Then we got the op Morgan Moses on the other side. His play is just so up and down. You don't know what you're going to get. But being that we are the Baltimore Ravens and we do have a lot of injuries, we need that depth. We also could use a backup center. Not saying that anything's going to happen with Linderbaum, but we need somebody to play backup. I know we have Patrick Bakari, who's kind of that swing tackle, guard, center, whatever we need him to do. He's a Swiss Army knife, but we need better depth. So what are we going to do in the draft? Your guess is as good as mine because we have not filled any holes during free agency because, as always, once again, we are up against the cap and we do not have the ability to sign anybody. Or, hear me out, do we take one of our better players, not mentioning any names, and trade them or him for a draft pick or 2? We don't have enough draft picks to fill these holes, and quite honestly, we may possibly at some point need to take a quarterback in this draft because we don't know what the future holds for us. So that is the Ravens news up until this point. Make sure you come back to the channel to get your news on the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and the NFL. Now, to that special news that I was speaking about. Later in the year, we are planning to do a meet and greet, possibly around training camp so people can go to the games, stop by, have some fun, come with us, eat, hang out. It's going to be myself, lunch break hot take, open mic with OTR Mike, Coach Evans from Sip to Tally, and a host of others. So just to give you a heads up, let you know what's going on, what's coming up in the future. We have a lot more other events that we're going to plan depending upon the turnout for this one. Trust me, we have some big things planned in the future with this YouTube community. So make sure you drop by, check out everybody else. And until next time, it's your boy.